Hello and welcome to the Smarketing Show. You know, with 71% of sales reps surveyed saying sales meetings these days are unproductive, and I'm sure if you're a sales leader or a sales representative, you're probably having more meetings than you used to in the, we'll call it pre-COVID days. And today we're going to talk about some great ideas you can use to energize your meetings for the ultimate sales meeting, keep your people engaged, make it productive, and bottom line, help you start and win more deals. Now, Cheryl, I know you've got some great insights on what makes a great meeting as well. What are you going to talk about today?
So it's kind of been said that the way that your remote meetings run is a reflection of how your business runs. So if you start late, you spend a lot of time chit-chatting, wandering around in your meetings, not really knowing what the outcome might be, maybe your business is kind of running the same way. So I'm going to kind of go through some etiquette and some like 5 sort of rules of thumb on how to run successful meetings.
So Cheryl, I know you've got more of a marketing side to today's conversation. I'm speaking to those of us that are salespeople, and we've all been in those meetings, haven't we? Where one by one the sales leader goes around. Okay, Jimmy, what are you doing with this deal? Jane, let's go through your. And they're boring and they're not. And so what we're seeing today is sales leaders, as I said, they're having whether it's Zoom or whatever platform. Meetings in the morning, meetings at night, when the cadence used to be sales meetings weekly or monthly. So here's a couple ideas. I've got 5 in total today I'll deliver. First thing you can do to energize a meeting. I think most sales reps, when I do live events, I ask this question: how would you rate your self on a 1 to 10 scale over the last 90 days? In other words, have you visited the websites of your top 3 competitors, and they rate themselves, the reps, and consistently it's the lowest score of this assessment I always do. And so to turn a sales meeting up a notch, I would suggest assigning a top competitor to each of your sales reps, and you task them with the following. Look, I want you to look at competitor A, B, C, D, E, whatever. Come back and give us a 5 to 7 minute, could be 10 minutes, whatever, but cap the time, and have them preview what's happening on the competitor's website. What are they saying in their social media? Like, what's happening in terms of the digital DNA communication? Because really today with commoditization, I think it's a lot to do with packaging, campaigns, and messaging. And if sales reps know what their competition are doing, they're that much better prepared to sell against them and win. So one idea. Second idea for a sales meeting. And you can either notify the reps in advance, or you can just jump them with a topic. And it's called the LinkedIn review. And what you do is you pop up each of their profiles right in front of them, right? And we look at them, we say, okay, are you branded with a customer resume branded profile? Do you look like you work for the company or you're looking for a job? And number 2, keep a scorecard with each rep on how much activity they've done in the last 30 days. Have they posted organic content on their own? Have they shared? And consistently, look, we had 800 people go through our LinkedIn program in April. It's still a huge gap, and it's something that I think a lot of sales leaders think marketing's doing and marketing thinks sales doing. But in today's era, we have to be active on LinkedIn, and that's a quick way to get people to focus. I guarantee they won't be off on email when you're showing their LinkedIn profile.
I'll talk to that point in a second. But in terms of being efficient and productive in your meetings, my first 2 points, I have 5 as well. Number 1, get your team aligned. Rick, you're like the all-star in this lane. So this is where you would actually like start your meeting, get your team aligned with what your expectations are, and how they should be thinking and acting. So some examples are, let me tell you a story about something that happened over the weekend, which you do quite often. Another one is give recognition to other team members who might not have visibility on the work that they're doing, which obviously you're great at. And then also ask your team members to give recognition to other team members that are on the team so that everyone can kind of understand some of the great work that's happening. So that is, get your team aligned with your expectations. Number 2, start on time. So often when leaders are late getting into meetings, and I say leaders because, they sort of set the standard in terms of what their expectations are for their staff. So if they're late, it sort of shows, my time is more valuable than yours, or I'm okay with starting late, or schedules and deadlines are flexible, even during this remote working environment. And those are not the messages that you want to send. So those are my top 2 for running effective and productive remote meetings.
Well, thank you for those kind words, Cheryl. And so just in case those of you out there think, hey, this guy runs good meetings, trust me, the odd time I show up, like you, made me go, okay, what are we talking about today again? So anyway, thank you, but we got to be real with people. Okay, 3 more ideas, all right? Right now, your company is probably trying to attract new customers, okay? And I find that companies go back to a blitz model where they hype up activities, whether it be phone, email, maybe it's a social blitz type of model. And we won't even get into like marketing paid and all that kind of targeting stuff. But from a sales standpoint, I'm calling it the prospecting exercise meeting. So what you do is you tell your sales reps, okay, let's create a fictitious account that everybody can relate to. So it's kind of like this size, number of employees, this vertical, etc. And you say, okay, as the sales leader, I want each of you to send me a prospecting email as if I was the target. And you've defined the role of the target. And you get the reps to send you their prospecting emails and to deliver you a voicemail. Now, you may say, hey, Rick, we're not big on voicemail, but all you want to hear is their tone, the words they use, how long do they ramble, okay? And then as the sales lead, you collect that information and play it back to the reps at the next meeting. And I tell you, it's going to be a comedy horror drama show for sure, because you're going to see basically how loose people are, and I'm generalizing here, in terms of key performance things like the subject line. Like I just posted a video on LinkedIn recently about the #1 subject line. And reps get caught up in the body of the email. They forget the subject line. But as a manager, I think it's a great exercise to show people what they do. #2 would be a virtual demo contest. So in today's environment, we were on a call yesterday with a telecom company, and they said, look, we need to strengthen our ability to do virtual demonstrations because the customer's not physically face-to-face with us anymore. And so call it a demo contest. Assign a common product to each of your reps and say, okay, we want you to give a 5-minute, whatever the tolerance is you think realistically of your customer, to overview that product, and look for things like at the beginning, are they asking some questions or are they just literally talking through the whole 5 minutes? And you and I both know a lot of reps do that. My last suggestion is a classic, okay, and it's often overmissed, and it's called the objection handling game, okay? And we all know that we're going to get common objections, whatever they are in your industry, and reps surprisingly are so unprepared. In our live events, they cave and they're like, well, you know, I don't really have a good talk track for that. So idea, get a deck of cards, okay? And start to write down the top objections you get, one objection for each card. And that deck will build over time, so you may start with 5 or 8 or whatever. And then in your meetings, start to deal out the cards virtually and say, okay, Cheryl, pick a card, boom, this one, okay, here's the objection, and role play live in your meeting. Now you can do this for 10 minutes, 15 minutes or whatever, but I think what the benefit of this is that other reps hear what their peers are saying that they often don't see at game speed. The young reps can hear what the tenured ones are doing, which could contaminate them, by the way. But it's just a great way to get people engaged because, you know, stats indicate that 71% of people are disengaged in meetings, not like our Smarketing Show right now where they're up on email. Come back and watch us because they will focus if you're showing them their own stuff.
For sure. It's almost like you've done this before or something, Rick. These are really good ideas. And further to your points, when it comes to efficiency and productivity, my last 3 points, obviously, get your team engaged. And you gave that, I love that example with the cards. How do you get your team engaged? There's lots of ways. You could use the chat feature within your, like whether it's a Zoom meeting, and actually directly correspond with somebody sort of offline, but still during the actual meeting itself. You can ask and offer feedback. You can utilize breakout rooms if you have that feature. You can conduct polls, let's say, with the attendees of your meeting and ask people to vote on things. It can be anonymous or not. So keeping your team engaged is so important. It's actually quite a challenge to do. My 4th point is have an agenda. It doesn't necessarily have to be sent out in advance. It can be something that you kind of draft yourself. And I know, Rick, we do this often with clients just so that everyone kind of knows these are the things we need to get through. Let's stay on track so that we're not on point number 2 and we're 45 minutes into the meeting and we still have 8 more things to do. But just make sure that you have an idea of what you want to get through so that you can manage your time efficiently in a meeting. And the last thing is end with a who needs to do what by when call to action. So
classic mistake, Cheryl. It's a classic mistake. People are like, hey, good idea. You guys will take care of it, right? Yeah.
And I'm guilty of this too. I often, you know, on our team, we'll send a task to somebody and then their first question is, when do you need this by? And my response is always, good question. So they keep me in line because I'm often not thinking about deadlines or timelines. I'm just, you know, throwing out the work and saying, here's what we're working on this week, team. And it's really important for everybody to be able to manage their time efficiently, to understand when they're expected to get these things done by. So that's kind of a good way to wrap up a meeting as well. And it's usually keeps people focused, keeps people on task. And it's a good way to say goodbye. And on that note, I think,
you know, Cheryl, yeah, you wrapped me up. So Cheryl does, in case you haven't noticed on the 20-some episodes, wrapping up the meeting per se. Hey, look, you got to make your meetings engaging. You know this. They've got to be fun. People don't want to dread them. Okay. And the more you can do things or show things that they have done, I think your attention's going to go through the roof. So competitive intel review. You and I both know you're not looking at your competitors or haven't recently. The LinkedIn review, just show them how they look with the stain on their shirt. They're not active. It's critical nowadays. Prospecting exercise, easy to do. Be prepared as a sales leader. They're going to scare you. The virtual demo contest will be hilarious / productive. And lastly, get your reps ready for objections. They're happening today, believe it or not, in today's era.
For sure. And congratulations, by the way, Rick, on episode number 25. Today's
25?
episode number 25. Isn't that crazy? 25 weeks since we started this at the beginning of January. So it's been fun, and I look forward to the next 225. And if anyone has any ideas on possible show topics that you would like Rick and I to discuss, or even bring in an expert, if you'd like to come on the show and be a guest, we'd really like that as well. You can comment below, subscribe to the channel, like the episode, and you can email us anytime. You can connect with us on LinkedIn. Our email address is engage@intocommunications.com. So we'll see you next week, everybody.
And try some of these ideas. You'll turn your everyday meeting into the ultimate sales meeting. You won't believe the feedback.